The Golden State Warriors is about to change the NBA. As you all know, the NBA playoffs are just around the corner and Golden State Warriors are looking more and more likely to play in the playoffs. And in today's video, we're going to be going through 5 things that the rest of the NBA don't know about this Golden State Warriors team coming into the NBA playoffs and how it's going to help them win another NBA championship. So make sure to like this video, and guys, 92% of you are still not subscribed to the channel, so it'd mean the world if you could subscribe to the channel, hitting that red button down below. The first is that this Golden State Warriors team ranked number 1 in 3 points made. Now this may come to a surprise, but the Golden State Warriors, although having Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, never actually ranked number 1 out of all 30 teams in 3 points made. If we look at past seasons, especially even with Kevin Durant and also other players of that nature, Golden State Warriors are usually in the top 10 or top 5 for 3 points made, but they've never been number 1 besides this season. And that's why it's looking very good, because 3s are always better than 2s. And on top of this, the Golden State Warriors have done a fantastic job to add new shooters to this roster. If we look at the 3-point shooting so far this season for this Golden State Warriors team, we have Stephen Curry, who's averaging around 5 3-point makes a game, Klay Thompson, who's averaging 4.3, Jordan Poole, who's averaging 2.6 3-points made, and then Andrew Wiggins averaging 2, and Dante DiVincenzo also adding 2. Now, pretty much everyone else is averaging around 0.8 to around 1.2 3-points made, so I think it is fantastic that anyone can really shoot a 3-point in this team. And I think it is fantastic because, as you all know, that's what this team has been built off. The Golden State Warriors are a deadly team on the 3-point line, but it only really makes them better, not just having Steph and Klay, but having other players around them that can hit it consistently. If we look at some of the consistency of some of these players, a lot of them are shooting above 38% from the 3, which is fantastic to see. You have Steph, Klay, who are shooting above 40%, Jordan Poole shooting above 33, Andrew Wiggins, Dante DiVincenzo, and also Anthony Lamb are all shooting above 36%. So the Golden State Warriors have a lot of shooters in this year's roster, and it is only going to get better as the playoffs go on. I think the playoffs is going to be a really good time because of them having so many shooters in this team, especially since Andrew Wiggins has come back. There is going to be a lot of space in the floor to be able to not only just move around, but to drive to the basket. If you have other players running center or even power forward such as Wiggins or Kuminga, if they run that small ball, you can definitely see a team like Golden State Warriors have a lot more space inside, bring the center out of that key, and for him to be able to go to work, whether it's Steph, Klay, Jordan Poole driving to the lane. So it really does a lot of great things being able to shoot a lot of 3-points, because it makes everyone much more of a threat on that 3-point line, and it spaces out the floor for other players. So it definitely has a domino effect for them being such a great 3-point shooting team. But what's really helped them this season is not just having Steph and Klay, but having a lot more shooters around them that can hit it on a consistent basis. It's fantastic to see someone like Andrew Wiggins, who has definitely and consistently been hitting a lot more 3s and is now considered a great 3-point shooter. Jordan Poole has also been always a great 3-point shooter, but Dante DiVincenzo is also a big pickup from this season that has honestly added so much 3-point shooting to this team. You also have other players like Anthony Lamb, Kuminga can also hit it consistently, and so also Patrick Baldwin Jr. So there are a lot of players to definitely be excited for when this NBA playoffs start and they run a different style of play that's more on 3s and less of 2s. The second is the return of Andrew Wiggins. Now, as you all know, Andrew Wiggins has played not much of this season and had a lot of people questioning whether he was actually going to finish off this season and play in the playoffs. But fantastically to hear, Andrew Wiggins is finally coming back, because he is going to be ready for the playoffs and be playing from game 1 of the NBA playoff series that they first encounter. So I think this is honestly fantastic to see, because Wiggins has done a fantastic job so far over the last couple of years playing with Golden State Warriors, but his most recent season just last year was honestly fantastic to see him blossom into something and actually have him ranked 2nd in MVP voting for the finals MVP. Now, Wiggins coming into this season has been a bit of a rocky start, but I do think Wiggins can still provide a lot for this team that many people definitely forget. So far this season, he's averaging 17 points, 2.3 assists, and 5 rebounds. He's also shooting an effective field goal percentage of 55% and shooting a 3-point percentage of almost 40%. Yes, guys, you heard that right. Andrew Wiggins is shooting almost 40% from the 3. Guys, he has honestly been so fantastic in all facets. He's improved his game so much, and it was sad to see him away for so long. I definitely think the Golden State Warriors did miss him, and you can definitely see the amount of defense was needed for Andrew Wiggins when he was gone. So I think Wiggins coming back is honestly going to help this team out a lot. They have a lockdown defender that can also give you 15-20 points per game, and that is Andrew Wiggins. I think he's going to be very important because, like the saying always goes, guys, defense does win championships, and this is something Andrew Wiggins does better than anyone else in this team. So Andrew Wiggins stands at 6'7", 197 pounds. He's only 28 years old and he's pretty much in his peak years of basketball. So he's done a great job at being able not only just to defend when it comes to stealing, which he actually averages 1.2 or blocks, but his contest on shots, his ability to get around defenders, to help out on defense. It honestly doesn't go unnoticed, and yes, it may not show up in the stat sheet, but you definitely see the intangible things he does that really have an effect on this roster. And don't get me wrong, Draymond Green is a great defender, but Draymond really can only focus on forwards when it comes to guarding them. So whether it's a small forward all the way to center, but when it comes to guarding point guards, shooting guards that are a bit quicker and a bit faster, Andrew Wiggins is the guy that is able to keep up with those speedy players. So having him back in this roster and having back him in the starting lineup when it comes playoff time is definitely going to be interesting to see, but I do think he will be able to get it going and be able to do a lot for this roster. The third is that the Golden State Warriors rank number 1 in assists per game. So this is something that is interesting because ever since the Warriors dynasty of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, they have never actually ranked number 1 in assists per game. So this is actually the first season ever doing that, and I think this shows telltale signs that the Golden State Warriors are ready for this NBA playoffs. I think assists show a lot of different things, the first being that there are a lot of playmakers in this team, which is fantastic to see. And as you all know, Draymond Green, he's averaging 7 assists per game. You have Steph Curry who's averaging 6, Jordan Poole averaging 4.5 assists, and then you got Donte DiVincenzo averaging 3.4. So everyone is pretty much almost averaging 1 assist per game, which is fantastic. There are a couple of players such as JaMychal Green, Moses Moody, who are actually only averaging 0.9, but pretty much everyone else is at least on averaging 1 assist, which is fantastic to see. And I think it does show the capabilities of this team because they play a lot of unselfish basketball. If you don't remember, back in the San Antonio Spurs era of Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and also Manu Ginobili, what they did better than anyone else was have great ball movement. And at the time of that era, Steve Kerr was actually the assistant coach for Spurs, and now he is the head coach and has brought that same mindset to this Golden State Warriors team. So I think it is fantastic, and you definitely see in the way the Golden State Warriors play. They play a fast-paced basketball, but on top of anything else, they have great ball movement and are unselfish in certain ways. I think Stephen Curry, he is a great scorer, and yes, he is averaging 29 points per game and takes a lot of shots during any night. However, when it comes to Stephen Curry and his ability to actually play make as well, it definitely does show that he is willing to pass the ball off. He doesn't really care whether he drops 10, 20, or 30 points a game. It all depends on whether they win at the end of the day, and I think that's something that all these players have in common. Whether it's them shooting or whether they have to make the extra pass in order to get the open shot to someone else, they're all willing to make those passes in order to have this team win, and I think that's something that unselfish basketball really will help them in this playoff series. You'll see with a lot of other teams, they focus on 1 or 2 players at a time. If we look at a team such as, the Dallas Mavericks, who have actually been knocked out of the playoffs, they actually do look a lot of times just focus on Luka Doncic and have him do everything, whether it's points, and don't really do anything else. With the Golden State Warriors, it's a different story. Anyone is a scorer, everyone is a threat out there on the court, and I do think it is fantastic because it does lead to a lot more assists and a lot better ball movement overall. The third is that the Golden State Warriors now run a big 3 for the second unit, which is Jordan Poole, Donte DiVincenzo, and Gary Payton II. I don't know about you, but I am super excited to see these 3 in play, especially for this second unit. As you all know, the bench are probably going to be versing the bench of the other team, so it does mean that Jordan Poole, DiVincenzo, and Gary Payton II, who all potentially are pretty much starting players on any other roster, run a team like this and run the second unit, which has them verse a lot of easier defenders. And I'm telling you right now, Poole, DiVincenzo, and Gary Payton II all together on the floor for that second unit will definitely be a matchup nightmare for every other bench in the NBA. I'm telling you, Jordan Poole has so much scoring in his bag that he will be able to give you 20-25 points off the bench. So far this season, he's averaging 20.6, 2.7 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. You have DiVincenzo, who's honestly been a fantastic defender for this team, but has also done everything out there that Gary Payton II was doing, especially when GP II left for a little bit. DiVincenzo is averaging 9.3 points, 3.4 assists, and 4.5 rebounds. He's done a fantastic job as well on the 3-point line, where he's shooting 2 from 5 from the 3 and averaging a 39% percentage from the 3 as well. Then you have Gary Payton II, who has slowly come back. He's only played 5 games so far, but he's already averaging 5.2 points, 3.4 rebounds, and 1 assist per game. But on defense, you definitely see when him and DiVincenzo are out there together, it is honestly a matchup nightmare for any other shooting guard and small forward in the NBA. They've had a lot of stretches stretches together so far, and the stretches that they are together, that's when the Golden State Warriors have actually produced the best amount of defensive rating they have ever done. And that's why I do think Poole, DiVincenzo, and also Gary Payton II coming into playoff series will honestly be a huge aspect of them in order to make it far in this series. Like I mentioned before, defense does win championships, and Poole, DiVincenzo, and also Gary Payton II have a little bit of everything, and I do think they will be able to get it done, especially with their first round all the way to the championship round for the Golden State Warriors playoffs. The fifth is that the Golden State Warriors rank number 1 in pace. Now I think this is something that is super important, but pace is very, very important when it comes to the speed that you play basketball. And the Golden State Warriors so far this season are actually ranked number 1, and this is some of the first time ever, even during their dynasty of Klay Thompson, Steph, and Draymond, are actually ranked number 1 out of the whole NBA. Yes, they are usually a fast-paced team, but they have never actually been the number 1 team in pace, and I think this is going to be very important in the playoffs. Fast-paced basketball can obviously have different effects to another team, especially when they go up against a slow-paced team in the playoffs. If that does happen, the Warriors can definitely put them a bit of pressure on and really control the pace of these matchups, and I do think it can go a long way for Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson if they do match up against a slower playoff opponent. Now, the opponents haven't been decided yet because the Golden State Warriors are still in that area, whether they're clinching the playoffs or whether they'll be playing in the play-in, but either way, I think the pace that they have run with this year, with a very fast-paced basketball with a lot of threes, and also like we mentioned before, having players like Wiggins and all that back, I think it is only going to be a recipe for success for the Golden State Warriors once again.